at the same time, let's go ahead and move on to some of the criticism that's coming from the right as they're watching the poll numbers shift. I mean, it must be head spinning to be a Trump supporter and, come off the assassination attempt and the iconic image and the RNC and Joe Biden is floundering and you feel so emboldened. You even put JD Vance on the ticket. You are riding high. You're thinking, hey, are we going to be able to put New Jersey into play? And now, just in a few weeks' time, the world is completely different. And it's at best a toss-up race. I think that probably is correct. Where it is basically a toss-up at this point. But the trends keep moving against you. Contrary to the idea that Kamala would just have this bump that was like a honeymoon period, she continues to expand her margin and she continues to put additional states in play, like the state of North Carolina as one example. So you're starting to get, as with any team that feels like they're, starting to lose, that the unity cracks. And you start to get people complaining about this or that. Now with Trump, as you know, on the right, they never complain about Trump directly. It's always like the team around Trump. That's the problem. So that's mostly what you've been getting is like, oh, he's got to fire these campaign managers and they're giving him bad advice, et cetera, et cetera. But you did actually have Megyn Kelly come out and make some directly critical comments about Trump and his style specifically. Let's take a listen to a little bit of what she had to say in a conversation with Nate Silver.
One of the reasons why Trump gets upset with yours truly is because I have been raising that question for a while. And when he has what appear to be senior moments, I will call him out on it. And he doesn't like that. And I can't say that I blame him, but that's my job. I will say that in that discussion with Elon, to me, he seemed quite rambling. I mean, it was like, he rambles. He goes on too long at his rallies and in these exchanges and at his presser the other day, to where you get kind of bored, you lose the thread, you lose interest, which is not something you're used to with Trump. Trump in 2016, he was tough to lose interest in. And I think that's probably an age-related change. So I think this is one of the challenges of the people around him who are, I'm sure, are desperately trying to get him to stick on message.
And Ryan, some of the polling has shown that since Biden has dropped out of the race, people's concerns about Trump's age have actually increased now that you don't have the, the comparison of him versus Biden where you're going, oh, in comparison to that guy, he looks great. Now you're comparing him to Kamala Harris and it looks very different.
Yes, and people don't really want him, his advisors don't necessarily need him to stay on message. There's no such thing when it comes to Trump, but stay on brand. And on brand is entertaining and is interesting. And whether you're gawking because it's a car crash and you're wondering if the car crash is going to continue, or you're loving the way that he's just, beating the heck out of the liberal elites and the media and all the others, that's what you want. You don't want to be bored. You don't want to think that this is just an old guy telling you the same stories over and over again, saying, "Oh, did I tell you this one?" And you're like, "Yeah, well, does it matter if I tell you?"
That's like the assassination story that, at the RNC, he's out. This is the last time I'm ever going to talk about this. And then he spends like 30 minutes with Elon Musk going through detail by detail once again. That very much had that vibe. Candace Owens is sticking in the lane of like, I'm not going to directly criticize Trump, but I'll criticize the people around Trump as like a proxy criticism. Let's take a listen to what she had to say about how the campaign is going.
Something feels a little different right now. A few weeks ago, Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt. It was very clear to me, and I think to the entire world, that he was going to win the election because he emerged as a leader in his response and in his speeches thereafter, in the way that he communicated with the crowd. It just seemed so obvious that in order to defeat the deep state, who I believe was behind this assassination attempt, that we needed to elect Trump. But things have changed in just a very short time. The energy of the MAGA campaign feels very different. Now, at first, I was owing that to the fact that there has to be some reasonable trepidation. You don't just survive an assassination attempt and just keep going. And you don't come out of that not being a fundamentally changed person. And I think, by the way, for the better, really recognizing how precious life is, maybe perhaps being further committed to Christian principles as a leader. You're going to be changed having survived an assassination attempt. But there is something else that seems to have happened where I'm just not sure who is driving the MAGA bus anymore.
So she's not sure who is driving the MAGA bus anymore. We know who's driving the MAGA bus. It is and is always Trump. But there are rumors, Ryan, we can put this up on the screen, that Trump may be planning to fire 2 of his top campaign aides. That would be characteristic. This is a man has fired, I think, every campaign manager he's ever hired. So it would not be a shock if he's looking at these poll numbers and rather than looking internally about perhaps where he has gone astray, he's instead, pointing at Susie Wiles and Krystal and Ryan.
Yeah, and it's a funny moment of classic UK tabloid reporting that we're mentioning because Dan Bongino yesterday, kind of in response, vaguely in response to this reporting, was saying the knives are out for, the good Trump people, and he meant La Savita by that. And so he was kind of coming to La Savita's defense. He's like, I didn't want to have to do this. I didn't want to have to talk about the internal turmoil because I want to focus on the Democrats, but it looks like I can't because now these rumors are leaking out. But the way they leaked out is just incredible. So it's that Daily Mail with this UK tabloid. They don't mention La Savita or the campaign manager in the headline or even in the article. The only mention of him is in a photo caption within the story, which says, Trump is reportedly talking to his confidants about firing his campaign managers, Chris La Savita and Susie Wiles. Pictured. So they're breaking news in a caption with no sourcing whatsoever other than reportedly. Well, who's reporting it? The Daily Mail is reporting it in their caption. So it's complete and total garbage reporting, but it does appear that it reflects something real going inside the campaign because of what we know from Bongino's public comments. Otherwise, you could just be like, this is just, because tabloids don't often fabricate stuff. What they do is they play extremely fast and loose with sourcing rules and norms. And what's supposed to be off the record and what's not supposed to be off the record. So it sounds like they had some stuff that was off the record. They wanted to get it into print. They couldn't quite figure out how to do it. And some genius editor is like, well, what if we just slip it into the caption? No, there's different kind of rules around it. The photo caption. And then boom, it kind of picks up fire on social media once it's in there. It's like, oh, Daily Mail is reporting. It's like, so just a little weird insight into how rumors get started, but the Bongino's response to it, I think, is suggestive of the fact that there's something going on, and also it plays as like it sounds right? When Trump is flailing, he's all like, this is not just Trump. Everybody, when they're flailing, starts pointing fingers at those below them, but of course, Trump particularly.
Yeah. And also when a campaign or a team is flailing, then everybody starts throwing everybody else under the bus. And, any previous unity that they had 5 minutes ago is completely shattered and everyone's looking at who to blame. And also, you shouldn't underestimate how quickly the posturing starts for people to write the postscript narrative of whose fault it was. So in the after action report or whatever reporting gets released or whatever book comes out, they're not the ones who shoulder the blame. So that positioning starts very early in these campaigns as well to make sure that they come out looking good, even if it's a losing effort. We're going to have to skip over this conversation about the Trump campaign being hacked and maybe it was Iranians and then the news media decides not to report on it because we've got guests standing by and we don't want to be too late for them. But just, 30 seconds, Ryan, do you see newsworthy value in the J.D. Vance dossier that was apparently leaked to the Post and Politico and one other news outlet?
Supposedly, this Oppo dump about J.D. Vance is all based on public information. It's going to be things that are like hypocritical. Like he said this at one point, he said this at another point. He said this offensive thing about this group of people on this podcast. So it all seems to be public information. And we're constantly it's not just Iran that leaks these documents. The campaigns themselves sometimes leak these Oppo documents, and all it often is just a collection of clips and quotes from podcasts and appearances. And so in that sense, it's not really newsworthy. And so I can understand why they would say, you know what, this is just a standard Oppo book. We're not doing Iran's dirty work here. But I'm sure they're happy to have the Oppo book if it ever becomes useful. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it seems newsworthy because even one of the narratives around JD Vance is like, did they even vet this guy? Like, did they know about this childless cat lady stuff?
Apparently they did.
Did they know about like the postmenopausal woman comment, whatever? So even just to have a confirmation that, yeah, they knew that and they still put him on the ticket, or no, they were blindsided, but they had an incompetent vetting team and they didn't actually pull some of his most controversial comments, or they were actually worried about this issue over here. And it turns out, they didn't anticipate that the cat lady thing would be a real issue for him. Yeah, I think that is all very newsworthy. Just like I think it would be newsworthy to know we have had some reporting, which is, again, proof that this is newsworthy, that the Harris team did know that Tim Walz would likely face these type of attacks over his service. But I would still be interested in knowing, specifically how heavily did they weight this? How did they think about how to respond to it? Did they know all of the aspects of how he would be attacked on this, et cetera? Of course, I think that would be newsworthy and interesting to the public.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Let's see it all. Put all the oppo out there.
Yeah, put it all out there. Let's see it all. All right, let's go ahead and get to the gets that we have standing by.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.